Welcome to the Edmond Private Schools edition of Varsity. I'm Ryan Aber, joined by Bob Prisbilla. Bob, a big game coming up Friday at McGuinness when Millwood makes the trek over there. McGuinness is a team who's really struggled offensively. Still looks like they have a very good defense, though.
Definitely have a solid defense. You know, they haven't given up more than 10 points in the game this season, but on the flip side, they haven't scored more than 12. And talking with Coach Kenny Young, he feels like this is a team that's going to be in several of these close, just down to the wire games. And it's really going to be interesting to see how they react this week with a new quarterback. Quinn Chambord broke his ankle late in the fourth quarter last week, and sophomore Camden Tharp will be taking over.
And but they're playing a team who hasn't had any shortage of offensive output in their first couple weeks. Millwood ran over Star Spencer in week one. They scored 32 points last week in a win against Douglas in the Soul Bowl. How does McGuinness go about slowing down that Millwood offense?
Hopefully Millwood gets lost going to the stadium. I mean, that definitely help. No, but you know, the defense is the strong point of the Irish when you got Jameel Whitley, and you've got some real talent with Sam Crabtree, and I think it's really going to come down to can McGuinness get its running game going. It's kind of struggled here in the first couple games, but if they can get the running game going, keep Millwood off the field, they'll have a much better chance.
And Millwood's a team who's sort of the same way. They need to get their running game going because Emilio Gatewood struggled last week to run the ball against Douglas. Now, Douglas's front seven is very good, and certainly that had a lot to do with it. But McGuinness is also very good defensively, so it'll be interesting to see how that matchup goes with both running games.
Definitely, and this was a controversial game from last year. McGuinness ended up winning by 1. And I know the Millwood players haven't forgotten about it, and I'm sure that's going to bring a lot of emotion to the game on Friday.
Yeah, it'll be definitely a fun one to watch. Another big game this week, Del City and Edmond Memorial. Edmond Memorial, a team who came off a big rivalry win last week. They lost to Southmore in the season opener. Del City sort of the opposite, although they are 2-0. They won last week against Norman, although probably not the performance they would have liked. How do you see this one playing out?
With Memorial, I'm very interested to see how they play because against Southmore, you have those first game jitters. Like everyone gets it, and that's fine. Your second week is a big rival, so the emotion is really high. The intensity is just off the charts. The third week, it's just Del City. I mean, not just Del City, but in terms of the rivalry, there's not one that's really there that should carry over. So I'm thinking maybe this week will be the week they finally start to execute the way that they can.
But how do they go down slowing these Del City receivers down? Last week, the rain did a little bit against Norman. This week, likely not to have that same aid. They've got Chaston Gonzalez, their great quarterback, and obviously Chris McAllister and Donovan Dan, great receivers on the Del City side. Can Memorial slow these guys down?
They definitely can. The secondary is led by Nelson Medeiros, and the linebacking core is anchored by Adrian Shoecraft, and they stopped Santa Fe big time. They caused Will Long to a lot of rush decisions, and if they can do that, they might have a chance.
And for me, the big thing against Del City, we talked about Millwood establishing a run game. Del City also needs to establish a run game. They did last week. Greg Johnson had well over 100 yards and a touchdown, but they really need to be able to run the ball to be successful and keep teams balanced and off Dan and Chris McAllister.
A balanced offense, I think, is what every team is shooting for. Memorial's in the same position. Blake Umberham has played well these first couple games, and I think now is the time for Cameron Doolittle to have that breakout game.
All right, Bob, well, we appreciate you joining us. Look forward to this week. And join us every week at newsok.com/varsity for the best high school coverage anywhere.